The Seattle Seahawks have made the playoffs every single year for the past 4 years. Will that streak continue? We're about to find out. You're watching the MJ Take on Sports Fan Entertainment. Welcome to the MJ Take on Sports Fan Entertainment. I am continuing the 32 teams in 32 days, 2016 NFL season previews. I'm your host, MJ, and today we're talking about the Seattle Seahawks in their 2016-17 season that is coming up. We're about 7 weeks away until they play their first game. In fact, a little over 6 weeks, in fact. And you know what? I like the Seahawks team. And we're going to get into your team. I'm going to give you your strengths, weaknesses. I have some statistical projections down in the description box as well. And I'll give you my best case, worst case scenario, and my overall final win-loss prediction record. But let me tell you right now, I like your football team. Let's start with your biggest strength to me, and that is finally the quarterback position. I think Russell Wilson was absolutely fantastic last season, and how can anyone disagree? This guy was so masterful over the last 7, 8 weeks of the season, even in the playoff games. I mean, this guy was so good. I mean, this guy was absolutely amazing. 24 touchdowns to 1 interception over the last 8 weeks of the season. He finally ascended to that elite quarterback range. And I know you guys, being Seahawks fans, a lot of you're always hearing about Andrew Luck and how good Andrew Luck is. I think Russell Wilson proved once and for all that he's a better quarterback than Andrew Luck has been and may even ever be. People always like to talk about Andrew Luck. Oh, his offensive line stinks. Look at Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson has been sacked every single season. He's been sacked more than Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck's weapons aren't very good. Russell Wilson has had worse weapons than Andrew Luck every single season, but he doesn't complain. He doesn't talk about it. He just goes out there and he does his job. Marshawn Lynch was injured, and what did he do? He lifted the Seahawks to the freaking playoffs yet again. He was absolutely flawless, tremendous. He transformed Doug Baldwin from an average run-at-the-mill wide receiver to probably an elite wide receiver in the NFL. And I credit to Russell Wilson and also to Pete Carroll for finally having confidence in Russell Wilson, saying, hey, we have Tyler Lockett, who we drafted. Let's spread these guys out. Jermaine Kearse, Doug Baldwin, let's spread them out. Jimmy Graham, let's get him. Let's spread them out, and let's really throw the football down the field. They had a lot of success with that. I know in their playoff game against the Vikings, they really weren't that prolific offensively, but over the last weeks of the regular season, you could see the prolific offense really being born and built there. And with the defense that they still have, what a dangerous combination that could prove to be. Russell Wilson is now the strongest strength of this football team, solidifying himself to me as a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. To me, it goes Rodgers, Brady, Newton, and then you have Roethlisberger, and then I think you have Russell Wilson right in that discussion. I think he's absolutely fantastic. I love me some Russell Wilson. Now let's also talk about your defensive line, because I think that is another position group that is absolutely fantastic. Michael Bennett, who really has been even better ever since he's put on the Seattle Seahawks uniform. He was good when he played for Cincinnati, but man, they regret letting him go because, man, this guy's been tremendous for you guys. He's been much more versatile. He's had a bigger edge to his game, a chip on his shoulder. It seems like every single week, this guy is mad and angry and getting after the quarterback and stopping the run. He's gotten so much better, and I don't think he's shown signs at all of him letting up yet. He's really become an elite defensive player. I never thought he was going to be this good. He's this good now. It's absolutely tremendous to watch. You have Cliff Averill on one defensive end position. You have Frank Clark, who I thought played pretty good last year. He's getting even more experience. You drafted Jarran Reed in the 2nd round. I'm a big fan of Jarran Reed. This is a guy that I thought was the best defensive lineman on that Alabama defensive line. A guy that leaked out for the defensive line on one play and went to go tackle Leonard Fournette on the side of the field. Now, they're freaking numbers. He went to go tackle this guy. You see effort. You see production, strength, all on the film. He's going to make an impact. He's going to be a really good player, and he'll be under the tutelage of Michael Bennett. Man, the Seattle Seahawks defensive line, it's so good right now. I love, love, love that. And also you have the safeties. Earl Thomas, Cam Chancellor, we know what we get from them on a game-to-game, week-to-week, month-to-month, year-to-year basis. They give it to us. Earl Thomas is the best safety in the league. Cam Chancellor, once he came back and once he got in the flow of things, got even better. I want to see him return to that elite range because although he was very good, he wasn't the the absolute fearful Cam Chancellor he's been in years past, where you don't want to even get near this guy. I mean, running backs, they have to brace up because they know Cam Chancellor's about to lay the boom down. Tight ends, when they're going up for passes, they're already looking out for Cam Chancellor behind him, about to lay the boom down. He wasn't that forceful to me. I want to see him get back to that. Just be a forceful, all-time great safety, because that's what he can be. He was still very good, but I don't think he was all-time great last year like he's been in years past. Get back to that form, Cam Chancellor, and we'll be happy with that, and you'll get paid. All right, so with that said, let's get into some average or pretty good positions, because there's really not many bad positions on this roster. Let's talk about your wide receivers, and they're good. Okay, so this goes into a good range. I won't necessarily call it a strength, though, but they're good. Doug Baldwin, who I believe finally turned into pretty much a top 15, maybe even top 10 wide receiver in the league. If he's top 10, he's very borderline, because you still have guys that are, I'd still say, are better than him at this point. Plenty of guys, like both of the kids in Jacksonville, like Hearns and Robinson, and, Brandon Marshall, maybe even Eric Decker. And these are like the arguable guys. I mean, there's plenty of guys like Julio Jones and Odell Beckham, like we know, but then he's kind of getting into that range. We'll see if he can really even step up even more and really pass some of those guys. He got paid like a number 2 wide receiver. What was it? I think it was 4 years, 36 mil, or maybe it was 46 mil, but I thought he was going to get paid more than that. So I think he has something to prove. I think he's going to come out and prove it. And you also have Tyler Lockett, and I think he's really going to have a big year for the Seahawks. Some people are thinking 1,000 yards. I think just under that. I have him scheduled for about 980, but I think over 1,000 is definitely possible. I mean, I have him only 20 yards under that, but I expect more things from him. But I think they still have a lot of weapons here. I mean, you have Jermaine Kearse. You drafted Kenny Lawler out of Cal. I think he's going to come in and catch some passes for you. You still have Jimmy Graham, who didn't play all the games last season. And Luke Wilson's a pretty good receiving tight end in his own right. So I would like to believe that Tyler Lockett's going to get over 1,000 yards. But I think there's going to be a nice partition of wealth here. So we're going to have to, temper our expectations just a little bit. But I think he's pretty good. And I think he's going to get better and end up being really good for the Seahawks team. And maybe even Paul Richardson could possibly maybe give you something, but I'll wait on that. I still think he's not quite NFL ready, or that he's ever going to be quite honest with you. I just think he's too skinny, not physical enough, and not a great route runner for me. But anyway, you have your corners. You have Richard Sherman. We know he's great. Jeremy Lane, he was all right. Could have been better, but he's fine, honestly. But then the slot corner is a little bit of a question for me. You have Deshaun Shedd right there. Not great player right now. You also brought back Brandon Browner, but you're also talking about possibly moving him to safety, having him be a little bit of a hybrid. Don't love that. I think you guys signed Stanley Jean-Baptiste, a guy that's like either 6'1 or 6'3, long, lengthy corner, but gets a lot of penalties, isn't great in coverage right now, not very disciplined, so maybe he can challenge, but maybe he won't even make the team. So that's a little bit of a question right now. Slot corner needs to solidify itself, but when you have these great safeties behind them, I think you're going to be all right. Linebackers, KJ Wright, Bobby Wagner, you're going to get from them. Although Bobby Wagner was a little bit disappointing for me last season. He wasn't that fearful. Same with Cam Chancellor. They were good still, but they weren't as fearful as they were in years past for me. And they also have Mike Morgan starting at one of the linebacker spots. Don't know much about him. We'll see about him, but he is a weakness for this point on this defense. But you're going up against a lot of good players here. So he's going to be a weakness. I think he'd be a great player if he was on the Titans defense. But when you're surrounded by these Greek gods, yes, you're not going to look quite as good. But the defense, it's stacked. The worst starter is probably freaking Jordan Hill, and he may not even start if Jerron Reed gets his way. There's one huge weakness on this football team, and that is the offensive line. And it's a huge weakness. It could be the worst offensive line in the league. Now, you're going to get away with it for, I think, two reasons. Number one, Tom Cable is the most overqualified offensive line coach in the NFL. This is a former head coach that is now coaching the offensive line. He also has an assistant head coach title, but who cares? He was overqualified for the position. We know he knows how to coach the offensive line, so he's going to get some more production out of the offensive line. Okay, good. You also have Russ Wilson, who's very elusive, and we know that he's been avoiding sacks for years. I mean, I think he got sacked 45 times last year. You throw out Jay Cutler or Matthew Stafford or Marcus Mariota, that number turns to 55 or maybe even 60. So Russ Wilson brings that sack total down. So the offensive line is bad. But there's also some hope. Okay, you have Jermaine Ifedi. Maybe he's going to be a great right guard for you. Maybe Justin Britt moving to center will be, the change of his career, and he'll actually end up being a good center for you. I doubt it. Maybe Gary Gilliam is some sort of, guy that we aren't expecting much from, but he actually produces. But I doubt it. And maybe Reese Odiambo can challenge for that left guard position, beat out Glowinski and start at left guard and be good. But I doubt it. Maybe Jamarcus Webb will be better than I'm expecting him to be at right tackle. But I doubt it. So the offensive line, it's bad. But it's really the only weak position group on this team. At tight ends, you still have Jimmy Graham. Hopefully he can really get comfortable in this offense. I expect he will second season, especially now that they're spreading things out. And then the running back position, CJ Prosise, you drafted him in the 3rd round. You also drafted Alex Collins in the 5th round, and you also drafted Zach Brooks in the 7th round, but all of them are behind Thomas Rawls, who's starting at the running back position right now. Thomas Rawls was great last season. I mean, let's face it, guys, he was great. 5.6 yards per carry. I mean, he's just not going to do that again, but I still expect a lot from him. In fact, I think he's a big fantasy sleeper right now. I'm not sure he's going to get over 1,200 yards only because I think they're going to want to give CJ Prosise some carries. I think Pete Carroll is going to want to see, hey, what can Prosise do out here? Maybe it can be a little dynamic for us. But I think he's definitely going to get over 1,000, and he's still going to be pretty productive, pretty efficient. And I still like the Seattle Seahawks running game because as bad as a lot of these offensive linemen are, they're pretty good run blockers. Jermaine Ifedi is a pretty good run blocker. Gary Gilliam is an okay run blocker. Justin Britt, an okay run blocker. Jamarcus Webb, a pretty good run blocker. So the run blocking is still there. Jimmy Graham, he won't do any of that for you, but Luke Wilson can do some of that, get down and dirty for you and do some of that. So the roster's pretty good. How's the schedule? I think it's okay. I'd say maybe it gets a little close to pretty tough, but not that tough. You're facing the AFC East, and that's a blessing, right? I think you may win almost every single game against the AFC East, but you go to New England, and I think that's an L. But you also host Miami. You go to the New York Jets week 4. I think you're going to beat them in New York, but there is an upset possibility there. We have to admit that. And you also host Buffalo. So I think 3-1 against that division is very possible. When it comes to your own division, I hate the fact that for some reason, I don't know why, but you guys love losing to the St. Louis/Los Angeles Rams. I don't know why you love doing that, but you love to do it, especially in week 2. And guess what? Week 2, you have to go to LA. So hopefully you can finally get over that hump. I'm not projecting it though, because for some reason you guys don't want to do it. I've been waiting for you guys to sweep the Rams for years, and I'm still waiting. In fact, actually, I think you did do it in 2013. But, I don't know. They get punt returns on you guys. They get all kinds of nonsense. I expect for it to happen again. I think you guys can sweep the 49ers. I think you split with the Cardinals. So, overall, you go, 4-2 in the division? Pretty good. You face the NFC South. But I think these are some tricky games here because you go to New Orleans and you go to Tampa Bay. Those teams are going to be competing for the wild card to me. They're going to be problematic. And man, I think you're going to lose one of those games. I don't know if it's going to be if it's going to be the New Orleans or if it's going to be the Tampa Bay, but I think it's going to be one of them. They're going to trip you up, I believe. So I think that's another loss right there. And you also go up against the Cardinals. You host the Cardinals. Not the Cardinals, the Panthers. You go up against the Panthers, you host the Panthers. That is tough. I'm not quite sure you pull that one out. but you really could. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if you won that game. And that's not that. I mean, it's pretty hard. But since you're hosting them, it's certainly within the realm of possibility. I put the chances at probably 50-50, so who knows? Then you also have to go at Green Bay. That is tough. Unfortunately for you, Green Bay finished second in the NFC North. You finished second in the NFC West. So you have to go up against Green Bay. That is tough at Green Bay. They beat you last year. I think they beat you again. I'm sorry, but I think that's what's going to happen. You also have to go up against the second place team in the NFC East, which, where is that team? I don't see it on the schedule. Oh, there it is. Philadelphia. You host them. That is a W. I think I just counted 6 losses, I believe, and that's what I'm projecting. 10-6 for the Seattle Seahawks with a best case scenario 12-4. If they can beat Carolina in Seattle, if they can actually beat and sweep the LA Rams, very possible, I think 12-4. I still think you're going to lose to the Cardinals. I still think either the Saints or the Bucks will trip you up. I still think maybe the Jets could potentially trip you up. At New England is tough. So 12-4 is the best case scenario to me. Worst case scenario, you guys get off to a rocky start and you guys somehow end up going 9-7. I mean, that's the worst it can be, because at the end of the day, with the Seattle Seahawks, you guys are always in close games. Always. When was the last time you guys got blown out? I mean, I can't remember. I don't think the Seahawks have been blown out in the Russell Wilson era. You guys just don't get blown out. You may lose games, but you're in almost every game you play. Heading into the fourth quarter, you're in every game. So I'm not going to bet on you guys to go worse than a winning record. I think that's dumb. I think that's stupid. And anyone doing that is a fool and a clown to me. Because at the end of the day, you can trust the Seahawks. Pete Carroll has instilled this great team in the NFL, the perennial playoff contender. If you're picking them to have a losing record, to me, you're a clown and you're a fool, and I'm not quite doing it. Will you make the playoffs with this 10-6 record? I believe so. Right now I have the Bears going 10-6. That's one of my bold predictions, and I'm sticking with it. I think the Vikings will be tough. You don't face them, so we'll see how the tiebreaker, shakes out. I have the Packers winning the NFC North, by the way, so we'll see how things shake out in the NFC North, because that's the division you're going to have to be watching. The NFC North gets to go up against the AFC South. Their wins are going to be inflated this year, and that's going to hurt your wild card chances. But I will bet on you, because Russell Wilson has ascended to that elite quarterback range, and that is plenty for me to bet on. So there you go, my 2016 Seattle Seahawks season preview. What do you think about the Seattle Seahawks upcoming season? Do you have them winning the Super Bowl? Do you have them making the playoffs? Tell me down in the comments below. And if you enjoy the video, make sure to like, and most importantly, to subscribe, because every single day, a new team uploaded right here on Sports Fan Entertainment, 7 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, 8 o'clock Eastern, right here on Sports Fan Entertainment, because that's just how I do. I'm really grinding on this channel, but I'm loving it, and I know you are too. Until next time, this has been the MJ Take on Sports Fan Entertainment, and I'm out. Peace.